Rightio. Hello.
G'day everyone.
What episode are we up to today?
I think this is episode 4.
4.
And, when we started, we called it Movement Mondays.
Mm-hmm.
I think we released the first one on a Monday.
And none of them
since then,
since.
they've all been on a Wednesday.
Yes. And we've had a technical difficulty with the last one. It cut us off a little early.
Yeah. But I think there was still plenty of good stuff in there. I think we still went for half an hour, so it should be okay.
Yeah. So Movement Monday has a real nice mouthful about it, but turns out it's Movement Wednesdays.
You can watch them on a Monday
That's
if
fine.
you like.
That's
but,
fine. That's fine.
Anyway, it's good.
Yeah,
it's good.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I've actually really enjoyed just talking about some of these things and all that. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to today.
Yes, I've actually learned heaps through these, and I find myself thinking about it during the week, just when things come up. Just because it's rattling around in there, and a lot of this has been very new to me. Yeah. So I find just going about my week, I just notice little things, and it just bounces around from what we've talked about in the podcast.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. So no, I appreciate it. It's been really good.
That's great. And you were telling me before you're being stopped for autographs and everything. People are noticing you from the podcast.
Please, I'm just a person. No, it's been really nice to hear people have been watching and listening. Thank you. It's been good.
That's great. Well, let's dive into today.
Yeah, sounds good. What are we talking about today?
Okay, so today we're talking about the Chinese underground house church movement.
Okay.
I love this one.
Yes. Now, this has been going for quite a while.
Yeah. Have you heard much about it before?
In as much as I've been in church my whole life, so I've heard bits and pieces. Oftentimes when missionaries come through and they give you little bits about it. Pretty much, as far as I know, you're not allowed to sort of outwardly proclaim Christianity in China. Is that right?
Yeah.
So they've got to find ways around it. They've got to go underground.
Yeah.
I don't know a whole lot more about it, really.
Cool.
Details.
Okay.
So I think that's your job today.
Yeah, well, okay, so I thought I'd start off with a couple of stories that I've heard.
Great.
Because I got really interested in this movement. When I first gave my life to the Lord, I guess, when I owned my faith, I had big God experience and all that. I was a teenager, and some of the guys that I was looking at, Christian guys, role models, like they were just so brave and fearless, and they made following God sound like it was an adventure. And so I remember them talking about Bible smuggling into China. Yes. And so there were some guys connected to my friendship group who were always going over to China and smuggling Bibles in TVs and they
that
just
sounds
had these,
like a movie plot.
They had wild stories. So I was like, man, I've got to do that. I think probably with everything going digital, I haven't had to do that.
Probably not as.
But I wanted to. But that's I guess the first time when I really started hearing about China. And then I started hearing about China in a couple of different books. There was a book by a guy, an Australian missiologist called Alan Hirsch.
What's a missiologist?
He's a missions guru,
Specialist.
missional theology
missionary specialist
and practice. Okay. Yeah, and he's an Aussie guy. He started some really cool churches in Melbourne. If some people know Celebrate Messiah, which is a Messianic Jewish church. I'm pretty sure him and his brother Lawrence planted that together. They planted some churches down in St Kilda. And anyway, really, really cool. But world renowned now for missions theology and stuff. And in one of his books, he sort of outlined a bit of the story of the Chinese house church movement. We'll go into that in a moment. Anyway, but the numbers just blow me away. So in the 1950s, there was around 2 million Christians in China.
How do they count that? Or is it just an estimate because you can't really mark it on your census, can you?
Well, I did look at some other numbers and stuff, and it looks like there was maybe 700,000 or so Protestants, and then maybe 2.5 million Catholic. I think is what they were saying, up into 1950. But then in 1949, Mao Zedong came in, part of the Chinese Communist Party. And so he established the People's Republic of China. This is 1949. And so what they then did is the government developed, they called it the Three Self-Patriotic Movement.
Okay.
Yeah, means nothing to us. But it means they're self-governing, self-supporting, self-propagating. Basically, China wanted to be Chinese, and if you had nothing to do with China, see you later.
Okay.
And so out go all the missionaries. That's how it first started.
Yep.
But not just the missionaries. They wanted to kick out all the. They wanted to like really squash Christianity as a Western influence. Yeah. We can go into that a little bit more in a moment. But anyway, so that's in the 50s. I think it was by the 1980s, China began to open back up.
Okay.
So about 30 years later.
Yes.
And so people were sort of wondering what has happened to this church where Christianity is basically outlawed. Leaders, sometimes down to the second, third, fourth tier of church leaders, had been imprisoned. A lot of them tortured. They weren't allowed to meet in homes. Like they couldn't have a worship gathering together. That was outlawed. And then Bibles were burned. So you're sort of getting a bit of a picture. Anything to do with Christianity, illegal.
Yep.
And so you got no leaders, you got no Bible, you got no church, you can't even meet together legally. You know, the leaders have been taken out of the picture.
Yes.
You come back 30 years later and you would, I don't know, what would you
see what's left? The
what's
ruins,
left?
right?
What's left?
Yes.
Yeah, like has anything survived?
Yes.
But instead, they found up to 60 million, 60 million believers.
Yep. Incredible.
And
so it's actually grown.
It exponentially grew. And you can even look at some other figures that would say even up to 120 million believers. And so what is, the numbers are questioned because they can't, like, how do you actually...
That's right. You can't poll and...
No, because it's illegal.
Correct.
However, there is no doubt that something amazing is happening. Yeah, so incredible growth in a very, very short period of time.
Yes.
Like 30 years and like tens of millions more people.
Yes. It reminds me of the movement we talked about last time about in the US, the smaller church movements, not the big building, but individual houses and homes going and reaching, right?
Yeah.
And they did that naturally, right? Well, when the missionaries leave, you're left with these little congregations that multiplied.
That's right. So what survives? Like what survives that intense persecution? The things that survive are like people, like everyday normal people, families. People are still meeting as families. They're gathering together in their homes.
Teaching their children and their extended families.
Scripture, to a certain degree, was still around. Like they would hide Bibles and they would memorize massive chunks of Scripture. And they would pray. And it's funny, like they're like the bare ingredients. Like the simplest things that you need.
Sure. Well, they're not putting on big VBS and camps or anything, are they? They're just doing in their homes, passionate about it with their families. Yeah. With their neighbours, maybe, if they're lucky. I don't know.
Well, that's right. And I mean, that's the thing. So a couple of stories that I've heard. Like I remember when Sarah and I were in Mozambique, and we went to a missionary training school there, and we had some people who had been missionaries in China. And so they had been in there working with the underground house churches. And one of the stories they shared was one of these huge movements or networks of house churches started with a couple of ladies who would go down the river to wash their clothes. And they would just pray. And I think the story goes that they were praying for their kids, praying for their kids to come to know Christ. And then, you know, they slowly came to Christ. But then these kids became these incredible evangelists and pastors who just, I don't know, went crazy and like just shared the gospel everywhere they went and planted tons and tons of churches and tons of people came to the Lord. And so it just starts with like normal, everyday people. And it moved through families, which is really cool. A couple of other ones that I saw really early on, I remember seeing these videos and it was describing what was happening in China. And it was like old, grainy sort of footage, sort of like these guys have like smuggled a video camera in to church sort of thing. And I just saw these pictures of like these just everyday normal people, often out in the rural areas, meeting together in secret to worship God. And so I remember seeing this one video and all the believers, they're in a cave. And it's like one guy up the front, sort of leading them or whatever, and everyone's praying, and you just see the passion that they're praying with, the tears rolling down their face, and you think, oh my goodness, because like they've got no music, they've got to be quiet. And in these videos, I've seen like more recent videos actually of Bible colleges, but it's all in secret. Oof. Because in China they've got like all the facial recognition and all that, so they've got
all the censorship.
Oh
especially
my
the modern technology has made censorship
I heard
incredibly effective over
I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard someone say that not only do they have facial recognition, they've got back of the head recognition.
How could you possibly do that?
So I don't know if that's true. No. It's what I heard.
They're very technologically advanced though, so I can't put it past
and
them.
So I guess at the moment there are churches that are state sanctioned. Okay, so there's two types of church. You've got the state-sanctioned churches, where it is legal to be a Christian. However, they've sort of adapted the Bible a little bit, and make sure that you don't say anything against the government. Sure. There's, it has to sort of be in line with their communism type of party. I think they have to sing a communist song every week. Anyway, something like that. So those churches, even those churches, have experienced massive growth. So you've got that, but then you've also got the underground house church, which is like, actually, we don't want the state to tell us how to be a Christian.
We don't want them to know we're here.
Yeah, so they've got to be secret. So they've got all that sort of thing going on. And so they've got these Bible colleges. And in this video, these guys had been living in the same building for years, doing their Bible college without leaving. And like all the blinds are like down and all that. The guy who was filming had to hide in the boot of a car just to get in there. Like it was just like full on how these guys are living. Like the extreme devotion these guys have just really stood out to me. So I saw all that sort of thing, and that was just, that just sort of does your head in what they're living with. And then there's other books. I don't know if anyone's read The Heavenly Man. Have you heard of The Heavenly Man? Nope. It's a great little book. It's about this guy. His name is Brother Yun. And he was I guess an evangelist, church planter in China. And he's got this book of just his life. And extreme persecution, tortured wickedly, wickedly tortured, and all that sort of thing. But just the faith and the amount of miracles that just followed him from a very, very simple faith. And reading that book was like reading another chapter of the book of Acts. Like it was just phenomenal. So that's one. And then the next one that I just wanted to share was there's a book called T for T, Training for Trainers. And it was by a guy called Yin Kai. And I think we've spoken about him.
I think on the first
previously.
Episodes, yes.
Yeah. And so, again, American Chinese guy into China, and really very, very simple gospel tools. But his whole thing was, if they're a believer, I train them to make disciples. And if they're not a believer yet, I disciple them to faith in Christ then.
Yes.
And onward.
Yes.
And so he kept it very simple.
Yeah.
And over the course of 10 years, I think he said they had over 1 million people baptised. And in small church or small groups, which, is church, because they can't meet in big groups.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, and they can't be big public baptisms, can they? They've got to be real secret, quiet ones.
No. And so I guess I think this story really stands out to me, because all the things that we often think we need for church, that all became illegal.
Yes.
And then they were just left with the basics.
With what they memorized and prayer, right?
And it makes me think of the early church. Very, very similar. And so I sort of think, well, maybe we just overcomplicate things.
Yes. I think we do that in the West in a lot of things.
Yeah.
I think it's a slow boil where things just get very comfortable and we get to the point where our standards change for everything, up. And you could probably peel back a lot of that just to the basics. Yeah. But when you're very comfortable and you live in this slow boil where you get all the way up to this top level, just as an example I can think of is where There's people starving and would eat bugs because that's all they have.
Yeah.
And then you go all the way up to the top of the richest who said, if this lettuce isn't organically grown in the backyard of the restaurant I'm attending, I won't eat it. Do you see how there's such a big spectrum here?
Yeah, yeah.
And we're just so comfortable that we've walked up that ladder very easily in faith, in church, and just say, well, if the pastor isn't dressed the way I want, and if my particular songs aren't sung, do you know what I mean? We get to this point where...
we've got choice.
That's right. And that's the way we've just gotten very comfortable. And those things aren't necessarily bad things. It's just to strip that all back to go to the very basics and say, these people don't have any of that choice.
No.
But they're going for it. They're doing everything with what they can and what they have, and it's multiplying, right?
It's amazing.
Yeah. Yes.
It's amazing. And the thing that stands out to me about house churches is the way people must be hospitable.
Yes.
Like, they must... Like, I just sort of think, like, they know if they get caught, they're going to jail.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
They're probably going to get tortured in one of these labour camps.
Yes.
And all that sort of thing. Yet they continue...
That faith is outrageous.
Like, they continue to... Like every time they talk about God, it is a risk.
Yes.
Like, we have risk when we talk about God. Like, oh, will they make fun of me?
Someone's going to make fun of me because...
You know, will they still like me?
Yeah,
and,
will they invite me to the next dinner? Or,
yeah. Like, am I going overboard? Or
that feels so important at the time, but it just doesn't in perspective of these things, right?
Yeah, like these guys are thinking, hey, if I share this with the wrong person, they'll tell someone, and
they'll barge on my door and arrest me, and who knows what?
Yeah,
kill my family. I don't know.
And yet they do it with boldness, and somehow they just keep going. And I guess one of the things that, like, and again, we've mentioned this pretty much every time we get together, but every time, I guess, the church is under the pump. Actually, I think I heard someone say this. Every time the church gets squished, you don't kill it, you just spread it out even further.
There you go. That's good.
And so I think, like, that's what's happening. Every time you try to squish the church, it actually just... You're making it worse for yourself.
Yep.
And that's what's happened in China, is that they've tried to squish it and it just spreads. And so I think, for me, this is challenging because they don't... I mean, their consequences are so much more extreme than ours, but they keep going.
Yes.
I also think about, like, what does their prayer life look like for that? Because I don't think it's... Like, I guess they have to have some sort of real... experience of God to therefore be willing to die for it.
That's right. They wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't that real, would they?
No.
But I also find too, when faith is that strong, and in those type of circumstances, you tend to see God in everything.
Yeah.
I mean, you see Him show up.
Yeah.
You know, I've read that many stories of, and you've experienced so many of these things too
Yeah.
overseas, and these missionaries who have gone that was only miracle. There was no other explanation.
Exactly.
We prayed and it happened, and
well, this book, the Heavenly Man, the story about Brother Yun, like, the stories in that are just wild. Like, there's obviously, like, your normal ones that you read about in the Bible: healing, deliverance, people coming to the Lord. I mean, amazing miracles. But then he's got, like, all these other ones, like, of how, like, God got him out of prison. Just like in the book of Acts.
Yes.
You know, like...
We've heard that before.
Escaping out of the book of Acts, and, you know, like, just like, I don't know, like, just things that we often wouldn't really think are, I don't know, still happen today. But they do.
Yes.
And so I think, I mean, I can only imagine that if you were living your life, like, right in the red line sort of thing, like, where any moment you could end up in prison, and you see God answer prayer after prayer after prayer like this, I can just imagine, like, the boldness that would just begin to rise.
Yes.
And then even once they are suffering, once they are being tortured, they just cling to the name of Jesus and keep sharing the gospel even in their chains. And then the prisoners, they come to the Lord, and some of the guards, they come to the Lord.
Yes. That's amazing.
And so it's funny, isn't it? Like, so if we were to talk about, like, what are the ingredients for church, I think these days we'd probably look at the more exterior types of things. Whereas these guys are like the bare essentials, but the bare essentials are the real thing.
Well, that's
they're
what
the
you
real
need.
deal.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. So modern day, right now, do they have people actively hunting
I
these
think they
sorts
do.
of things? Or is it just if they come across, the police will be called? Or do they have teams actively hunting
I'm not sure if they've got teams. I'm not sure how it all works, but I do know that they still have this, the three self-patriotic movement. That's my understanding, that they still have the church where that is state sanctioned. You're allowed to be in that, but you're not supposed to be in these other groups.
Yep.
I'm sure they know of them, so I'm not exactly sure what all the persecution looks like exactly at this moment. But I do know they continue to be persecuted, and they continue to have to hide.
Yes.
They continue to have to. Foreign missionaries are still not allowed in there.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So like we've had friends who've been missionaries over there.
Yep.
But they don't go there. Their job is not missionary.
Sure.
Their job.
That was my next question: is what is their visa? How do missionaries get in there? What's their?
So a missionary would go in there with a legitimate job.
Sure.
Yeah. So it would be a legitimate job, and then they find ways to share Christ with whoever how they come across people. And I guess God orchestrates some really cool catch-ups, some really cool meetings with believers. Yep. And, I remember one of our friends, and she was saying that that she would lead her cleaner to the Lord, or she'd be in a taxi and she would just share the gospel in a taxi, and it was just in the everyday.
Yeah, but isn't that's a risk, because you don't know if your taxi driver's immediately going to drop you off and then go call the police because they're not. Yeah. They're not on that side, right?
So it's amazing because I guess their faith has consequences.
Sure.
Faith has consequences, but they continue to do it, and some of the again I said before. There's no doubt that the church is growing exponentially.
Yep.
What those figures actually look like is up for debate, I guess, because how do you find that out? Yep. I don't know. However, they're talking about there being more Christians in China than the US in the not too distant future.
Wow.
Which is just
that's mind blowing, because. Yeah, America would consider itself a Christian nation. Yeah. And not everybody, but a large majority of them, whether they're practicing regularly or not, would probably tick that census to say, I'm a Christian. Yeah. My parents were Christians.
That's right.
I've been to church.
Of course. Yeah.
Incredible.
So it's amazing. And not only that, but there's the Silk Road. And what the Christians there talk about is going back to Jerusalem. And so they're sending out tens of thousands. I actually think I read somewhere something like maybe even, anyway, I don't want to guess, but tens of thousands of missionaries back along the Silk Road, reaching all those nations in between China and Jerusalem, taking the gospel. So you think about who's in there. You've got, I guess, the Middle Eastern countries. You've got some, I guess, your India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, all those sort of Asian sort of countries in between as well. Anyway, but they're sending missionaries outside of China as well.
Wow. How about that?
And so not only...
China's sending missionaries.
China's sending missionaries. So it's... I think it's just one of the great stories that's happening in the world today. I think we need to continue to pray for the believers over there. Yep. No, I think we need to pray about us as well, that we would have the same faith and boldness and courage that our brothers and sisters in Christ have over there. We
have so much less consequence for it, don't we?
Yeah.
And yet it feels so much harder. It's silly, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's silly.
Yeah.
But this sort of thing always puts it in perspective. When you read martyr stories and these real life stories from these people over there, just it's very eye opening.
Yeah. And the simplicity of their faith. I love it.
Yep.
I love it.
Very good.
Well, let's, I don't know, let's just try and keep it simple, hey?
Yes.
Keep it simple.
That's a good thing to take away from this. Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right. Thanks, James.
Thank you, everyone. that's another Movement Monday. Although
Slash
it may
Wednesday.
not be /Wednesday, whatever day it ends up coming out.
That's right. I hope you learned something. I certainly did.
Yeah. We'll see you next time.
Very good.